Hi everyone, I'm Bruce Howard, Chair of Waiuku Family Support Network. I can only do the work I'm doing because people before me have done amazing work, and today's guest is such a person who, if he hadn't had the vision and the foresight to go ahead and purchase the building that we've been operating out of for over 20 years, and it's became mortgage free, that the group that I work with now, we inherited that building, we couldn't do the work we did. But at the same time as doing Waiuku Family Support, Don was involved in the St Andrew's District Combined Church and getting that like it is now, which is one of the landmark buildings in Waiuku. So Don is a very special guy, and it's a privilege to actually learn, as I did through this exercise, of his contribution to our community of Waiuku, and I know he will continue giving as long as he lives. Enjoy Don, he's a special guy. Don, it's fantastic to have you here. We've known each other for a few years now. In fact, you and Galen are probably the earliest family I got to know, the first family that invited me into your home for a meal.
Oh, good.
So it's really special to be chatting about another era of our lives that we have in common. And in my journey with Waiuku Family Support, it was brilliant to find out that you were a chair at some stage. I'm not sure how the pecking order of it all worked out prior to me. So I'd like to find out from you what made you interested in becoming part of Waiuku Family Support, and why did you engage with it?
Well, it was a Rotary thing that we were supporting Waiuku Family Support all the way along, and I was the second Rotary rep on the board, and then I stayed on because nobody else would come on from Rotary, and eventually I became chairman of the board. Yeah.
Wow. So I'm going to ask some questions because I'm quite fascinated by this. When did Rotary stop being part of Waiuku Family Support?
Well, when I pulled out, I suppose. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is Rotary still operating?
Oh, yes, and I would imagine that they would support any support they could do. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's all good learning for me. So what were you doing as an organisation when you were chair? What was happening with it?
We were buying the building that you're in now.
Right.
And we had a mortgage on that building. I don't know whether you still have, but no, because we did it, and we did major change to the building with Design Max. Yeah.
Oh, heck. Didn't know. Well, I tell you what, we actually talk about it. We have whakataus, which are mini palfreys when new people come, and we always acknowledge the ancestors of Waiuku Family Support, who we couldn't be doing what we're doing today if you guys had not done and set the platform that we operate from now.
Yep. And sometimes it was fairly hard going in the early years.
It would have been tough.
But there was quite a few stalwarts. Grace was a stalwart. Is Grace still in? Or just no? Because Grace is probably just concentrating on Hamilton Block and
Grace from Tufera.
Yeah.
Ah, right. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. She's a stalwart. She's been in the long as I have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, since I've been here, we've always had a great relationship with her. She's an amazing lady.
Oh, it is. She is, yeah. And, there's been quite a few women and men pass through the board since I was on, yeah.
So how big was the board in your time?
About 7, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 6 or 7, yeah.
We dragged out the Constitution, Karen did for me the other day, because it's coming up to AGM time of the year, and it was fascinating. It's my once-a-year visit to the Constitution and reading it, and realised that we've got 6 of us on the board now, that 7 is the maximum you're allowed according to the Constitution.
That'll be right. Yep.
Yeah, and so that's 35 years old, that document.
Yep.
So we're at 6. So, and we've talked about we'd like to get another one on, without having the Constitution in our frame, and saying that's about the maximum you want to have on a board.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many staff did you have back then? Did you have any staff?
Yeah, we had 2 social workers, two of them.
Right.
And mostly weren't in the shop. They were out doing what they do.
Yes.
And a manager.
And a manager. Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So when were you the chair? What period of time was it?
Probably from 2001 or 2000 through to 2010 or 12.
Wow. Wow. I give up keeping track of how many staff we got working there now. It's very fluid because it's nowadays we don't have, everyone's not a full-time equivalent headcount. There's a lot of social workers that work 0.4 or 0.5 and counsellors that do this and
and in the early days the social workers weren't qualified, and I had to get them qualified and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So how did you get on for funding back then?
There was several things that were funding us. Can't tell you what it was offhand, but Rotary and the council were in on it too. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, they counted because the local councillor was Hull. Judith Hull.
Oh, Judith Hull.
When she was a councillor, and
I didn't realise she'd been a councillor.
Oh yes, yes, she was a councillor for a long time.
And she was a vicar or something as well.
Oh, the Anglican vicar. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I only met her for the first time just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and of course she's Rotary too, or her husband is. And
what about the business community? Where has the relationship been with them aside from Rotary? There's a business association now.
Yeah. The business association goes back a long way too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So because you and I have had the conversation that we're looking as an organisation at putting a new building up.
Yep.
Because of the growth, and we couldn't be doing that if your team had not did what you did with the building, because it's given us on paper the capital that keeps everyone happy to do it. But it's the goal is to have a multi-storey building there to address, so that we can address a whole lot of needs now, because the reality is, well, you must have noticed that the difference in size in Waiuku to what...
Yep, you've outgrown the building. That's yeah.
And that's a compliment to you and your team that did it, but it's equally a reflection of society at the same time.
Oh, yes, yeah.
What do you think the future of Waiuku Family Support is, as someone who's been observing it and part of it for quite some years?
I've been observing it probably since 89.
Wow.
That's when I came to town.
Yes.
It's a good need. It's a certainly something that should be kept up.
Yes.
There was a time back in I think about 2005 when they thought that we should all come over to Pukekohe, and everybody customers and all clients transferred to Pukekohe, and I was right against that, and that was sort of a council thing to do with our finances. Yeah.
And it still annoys me that bureaucrats today think, well, you know, what is it? One meeting I was at a while ago, and they said, well, why don't you become part of Manukau? I said, do you yo-yos know what length drive it is for us to get from Waiuku to Manukau? Yeah. It's like...
It's pathetic.
Well, you know...
For the medical clinic or something like that, it's
just unreal.
Yeah.
Well, I know the super clinic, I went there for an appointment one day and got told, oh, sorry, we forgot to tell you it's been cancelled, your appointment. And I thought, it takes me an hour to get here. Before we start adding the cost, you've basically chewed 3 hours of my day up and massive amount of expense. And being on the pension, you can't throw it around like one used to.
Yeah.
And people don't fully always comprehend the remoteness of Waiuku, and that's part of its beauty and its strength is that remoteness.
That's the strength, because we're on the limb.
Yes.
And we have to look after ourselves.
100%.
Yeah.
And we don't belong to Pukekohe. We're not Pukekohe.
No.
Yeah, we might have to go to Pukekohe for certain things, but it's begrudgingly done for some of us.
Yeah, and we have our own clubs, you see.
Yes.
The Lions and the Rotary and
the Cosy.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Cosy.
Yeah.
Well, that's RSA too.
Yes, RSA, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's got its own unique identity.
Yeah, and even run our own Anzac and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I've got to be honest, I've not missed an Anzac parade since I've moved to Waiuku.
Yeah.
They're quite special, our little ones that we do. They're neat.
And the great saving thing was saving the municipal hall. The council wanted to smash it up. Or
you're kidding?
Yeah. They wanted to do away with it. And a group of us, with Bob Beddison and Barry
Curtis.
No, Barry. He's a good lion. He's a one of the lions anyway.
Oh, right.
And they held it together and got it all reopened again and maintained and up and running. Yeah, but that could have been lost to the town, and it's one of the most important things.
It's a vital thing for our community. That's to say, people who put on pinstripe suits or have got that style of thinking need a bullet in places I cannot say on public, but because they don't understand, and it's actually a reflection of how we've damaged society in New Zealand, because we've taken away the things that make communities communities.
Yeah.
And that's part of the role of Waiuku Family Support, in my opinion, is keeping the community of Waiuku feeling like a community.
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to be a never-ending battle, because there's an argument, and I shouldn't say a debate. I was involved with a guy the other week that I came across to Pukekohe for the swearing in of the councillors for the reach into the Franklin board and all that. The new ones, and watched that, which was a fascinating, I think, evening. But it was good for some of the people you met. But trying to come up with a model that actually says all the social agencies like Waiuku Family Support, Pukekohe Franklin Support, how can we have a model that isn't a takeover by one of the other, allows the uniqueness of community, but to give us shared buying rights for things that on our individual rights, we can't do.
Yeah.
And I hope it's an ongoing conversation, that no one rushes into anything with it, because there's a massive amount of pitfalls that can go on there, because you can start out with good intentions and destroy something beautiful,
Yeah.
and we can't afford that.
Yeah.
If on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 something you've done that feels the best, and 0 feels like something you'd never want to do again, where would you put Waiuku Family Support in your experiences of life, and why?
Oh, it'd probably be number 2, next to the church. See, we did a massive changing over with the church at 2000.
Yes.
And more or less, I had to take over family support at the same time. But that basically, I feel that there was good leadership of both of them. On the church, I was on the committee that does property committee that and up through all the handling of all of that and the new op shop right up.
Well, I'd like to congratulate you on that, Don, because both organisations are in very healthy places now, and it's people like you who did the groundwork. I'd like to sidetrack for a few minutes on a different topic. We've, in the rental parts accommodation we've got at 8B Queen Street, we've got the Artisans Alcove.
Yep.
And your son is demonstrating his amazing work. Would you like to tell us a bit about Chris and his talent and the difference you've made in his life by getting him doing the stuff you're doing?
Well, I think it was probably the move here to Waiuku that really made Chris, because we had a little 7-acre farm up Waipipi, and he took on an older younger brother at 9 years old, and he was 21.
Wow.
And they became friends right from day one.
Neat.
Yeah. When anything was on at Waipipi School, his younger brother took him along, and he enjoyed it all. And I was travelling to the airport every day.
Right.
And and coming home on weekends and cutting rounds of pine tree, old grandfather pines, and we bought a wood splitter, and Chris learnt to split wood on the splitter.
Wow.
And we did a lot of wood from there. Some days they were delivering, Galen and Chris were delivering 10 yards or whatever.
Cubic metres.
10 metres, that's right. Yeah, 10 metres a day. That was a full day's work for them.
Wow.
Yeah. But I used to cut the rounds up or cut the trees down, and then Chris would do the splitting, or he would do the cutting all the scraps onto the fire. And yeah.
And just for those who are watching and listening, Chris is the most amazingly talented cross-stitcher I've ever encountered in my life. He's very unique and very, very special.
Yeah, and that's come about now that he's sort of retired. He retired at 51.
Right.
And he's got time to do it, because now all we got is 2 days at the op shop and my lawns, and that's all really, other than doing his near work full time. Yeah,
it's a genuine art form, and if I was in your shoes, I would just glow at pride with that young guy, because he is just one very, very special human being.
Yeah.
Very special guy. and I consider it a privilege in my life to have met and getting to know him.
Yeah. That's right. You've really got to know him, and that
he's really cool, neat guy, and it proves Chris proves we've all got talents.
Oh yes.
We just need the avenue to be able to express those and share those. And the fact, for me, when I saw his display in the Artisans Alcove at 8B Queen Street, it was as though the connection with Waiuku Family Support had never gone, because it was almost like it gone a cycle, for want of a better phrase, that here was a guy who was a driver in the organisation being where it is, and the position it's in the community. His son is now displaying his incredible work. It's quite special. And I know St Andrew's Church, because I go there too, is privileged to have him there, and it's just wonderful, and it's what community's all about, isn't it?
Yep.
So thank you for your time, Don. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about Waiuku Family Support?
There've been some quite good people pass through there. The treasurer we had when we got Remax designed to do the building.
Yes,
she was very good, but she was never given the credit for being that. Yeah.
I've got to be honest, we knew that, because that's always made mention at everything I've been at, that Remax did the design, and we wouldn't, as I say, it's that old, it's a cultural thing in many cultures, that our ancestors lead us into the future, and our ancestors determine where and what we should be doing, and we as part of our whakatao we hold all the time, we always mention that, and there's a group of you that sacrificed a huge amount, so that makes us look good nowadays, but if we couldn't have looked good if there hadn't been a platform to look good from.
Yeah, and that girl was, although she was a treasurer, she took a lot of responsibility of working with those builders at the time. Yeah, so that if you're going to credit someone with putting a lot of time in, she would be one.
Yeah, well, there's probably a few, because to actually, when I came on board to have it as a mortgage-free building, that's a phenomenal compliment, because there's a lot of pain to get anything to mortgage-free nowadays.
Yep.
And it's not done easily or lightly, and especially when you don't have a traditional model of income for an organisation. It's flipping amazing, in my opinion, and it bodes well for the future of what I believe is an incredibly special and precious organisation.
Good.
So thank you, Don. Really appreciate you coming, and appreciate your time and your energy, and
good.
We'll continue. We'll always sit together in church each week. I like that.
Catch up somewhere along the line.
Yeah, no, it's really good, Don. Really appreciate it. And this is just about gathering the oral history of the organisation, because we can digitally record the stuff now, and it can get stored in the mythology called the cloud. I say mythology because it's actually computers at ground level. It's nothing out in outer space like the cloud sort of infers, but at least there's more chance of this stuff being around for in 100 years' time for people than the written word. A lot of written materials have vanished and disappeared.
Yep.
So, yeah. So thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Cool.